The classic sci-fi series Lost in Space captured the imagination of audiences worldwide, but behind the scenes, the lives of its beloved cast were marked by stories of triumph and tragedy. In this video, we delve into the untold tales of the stars who brought the Robinson family and their companions to life. From shocking accidents to silent battles with illness, uncover the heartbreaking fates of the 25 iconic members of this legendary series. Don't miss this tribute to their legacies and the mysteries that surround their untimely passings. Guy Williams, born January 14, 1924, played Dr. John Robinson in Lost in Space at the age of 41. The character was a brave and loving father, the emotional anchor for the Robinson family. Yet, off-screen, Williams' life was filled with challenges. Though Lost in Space brought fame, his career stagnated afterward, leaving him struggling to find roles. Williams married actress Janice Cooper in 1957, but their marriage ended in divorce. They had one son, Guy Williams Jr., but their bond was distant, strained by the pressures of his career and personal struggles. Williams withdrew from Hollywood, living a more private life. As he aged, he faced increasing isolation, his health declining. On April 30, 1989, at 65, Williams passed away from a brain aneurysm. His death marked the tragic end of a man who had once embodied strength and leadership, but in the end, was unable to overcome the personal losses and loneliness that had plagued him for years. Mark Goddard, born on July 24, 1936, was 29 when he portrayed Major Don West in Lost in Space, 1965 to 1968, a courageous and skilled pilot. Off-screen, Goddard's life was far less steady. His acting career never reached the heights he had hoped for after the show, as he struggled to escape being typecast. Multiple roles fell through, leaving him disillusioned and financially strained. His first marriage to Marcia Rogers ended bitterly in divorce, with 2 children caught in the fallout. The separation strained his relationship with his kids, who grew distant over time. Later, Goddard remarried, but his second union also faltered under the weight of his growing frustrations. His life was marked by regret over unrealized dreams and family fractures. In his later years, he taught acting, attempting to find meaning away from the screen. Mark Goddard passed away on October 10, 2023, at 87, from pulmonary fibrosis, leaving behind a legacy tinged with both brilliance and heartache. Jonathan Harris, born on November 6, 1914, captured hearts and disdain alike as the duplicitous Dr. Zachary Smith in Lost in Space at the age of 51. The cunning antagonist, who oscillated between comedy and sabotage, became his defining role. Harris's journey to this point, however, was marred by despair. His early career saw modest success in Broadway, but rejection was a near-constant companion. Despite his erudition and charisma, his career faltered after Lost in Space, as casting agents typecast him, denying him roles that matched his potential. In his personal life, Harris married Gertrude Bregman in 1938, a union that endured on paper but was fraught with tension. They had one son, Richard, whose strained relationship with his father added to the latter's anguish. Harris's life was punctuated by 2 tragedies: the unexpected death of his closest childhood friend during his formative years, and later, a public feud with the producers of Lost in Space, which eroded his confidence. In his twilight years, he struggled with declining health and died on November 3, 2002, just shy of his 88th birthday, from a blood clot in his heart. Dee Hartford, born on April 21, 1928, brought to life Reda, an android in Lost in Space who, despite her mechanical nature, embodied warmth and intelligence. Reda was both an enigma and a companion, constantly navigating the complexities of being human despite her artificial design. In Dee's personal life, however, the complexities were not so easily navigated. Despite her beauty and brilliance, Dee struggled with failed relationships, never quite finding the love that Reda so effortlessly gave. She had been married twice, both unions ending in heartbreak and disillusionment. Her first husband, a fellow actor, was emotionally abusive, while her second marriage ended in infidelity. Though she had one child, a son, her relationship with him was strained. He grew up feeling neglected, a casualty of her career that had been her sole focus. Dee's greatest tragedy was the profound isolation she felt in her later years. Her career faltered, and she spent her days in relative silence, reminiscing about the days when she was a rising star. She passed away on October 21, 2018, at the age of 90. Fritz Feld, born on October 15, 1900, was 66 years old when he appeared as Mr. Zumdish, a quirky, eccentric figure in Lost in Space. His long career had spanned decades, often cast as comedic side characters who provided light-hearted relief. However, the man behind the comedic roles, Fritz, had a life full of missed opportunities and regret. He had been married twice, the second marriage to a much younger woman, but it ended in acrimony. His children, distant and uninvolved, hardly knew him. Despite his prolific career in film and television, Fritz's personal life remained lonely, filled with professional disappointments. He struggled to find roles that reflected his true talent, often typecast in minor parts that didn't do justice to his abilities. He suffered from periods of financial instability, his fame fading as he grew older. The final years were marked by painful isolation, with few friends remaining to comfort him. On November 18, 1993, at the age 93, Fritz passed away from complications related to heart failure. Sheila Allen, born on February 2, 1929, was 36 when she portrayed Aunt Gamma in Lost in Space, a warm and caring figure in the show's chaotic universe. Sheila's portrayal of a nurturing character was a stark contrast to the turbulence of her own life. Despite her early success in the theater and film, Sheila's career took a turn for the worse as she struggled to find steady work in Hollywood. She had been married twice. Her first husband, a fellow actor, left her for another woman, an event that broke her spirit. Though she had one child, a daughter, the marriage had shattered, leaving her with the bitter taste of failure. After a difficult divorce, Sheila withdrew from the public eye, facing the double burden of trying to raise her daughter alone while dealing with the emotional scars of her broken relationships. Her career continued to decline, and financial hardship soon followed. The loneliness in her later years was palpable, a woman who had once filled the stage with light, now left in the shadows of her past. Sheila passed away on November 15, 2013, at the age of 84, succumbing to a long battle with cancer. Dawson Palmer, born on August 27, 1936, had a short-lived but intense career as an actor, best known for his roles as various monsters in Lost in Space. Palmer's characters were always menacing, and his deep voice and imposing figure made him an unforgettable presence in the series. However, outside of acting, Palmer's life was a chaotic spiral of broken dreams. He struggled with addiction throughout his career, unable to shake the demons that haunted him from an early age. His marriage to actress Mary Beth Hawkins, which was initially a passionate affair, ended in bitterness after he was caught in multiple affairs. The couple's only child, a son named Thomas, was born just before the divorce, leaving Palmer to battle guilt and regret for the destruction of his family. His career began to falter as his personal life unraveled, with roles becoming scarce due to his erratic behavior. Palmer's descent into self-destruction culminated in a tragic car accident on September 10, 1972, when he was just 36. Albert Salmi, born on March 11, 1928, was 38 when he took on the role of Alonzo P. Tucker in Lost in Space, embodying a rugged and adventurous spirit. Yet, for all the brash confidence of his character, Albert's own life was marked by deep turmoil. A talented actor, Albert's career never reached the heights it could have. He was often relegated to supporting roles, which left him feeling unfulfilled. His personal life was no less chaotic. Albert married twice, and both of his marriages ended in tragedy. His first wife left him after a string of infidelities, and his second marriage collapsed under the weight of his own inner demons. He had 2 children, but his struggles with alcoholism and temper left a trail of emotional scars on his family. Albert's greatest tragedy occurred when his son, Michael, died in a car accident, a loss that plunged him into an irreparable spiral. His career faltered, and he found himself alone, with few friends left to lean on. Albert's health deteriorated, and his later years were a blur of hospital visits and isolation. He died on April 22, 1990, at the age of 62, from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Michael Rennie, born on August 25, 1909, was 57 when he portrayed the Keeper in Lost in Space, a mysterious and enigmatic figure. His character was an immortal force, filled with wisdom, but Michael's life was far from immortalized in the way his role suggested. He was a well-known actor, famous for his work in science fiction films, but his personal life was fraught with heartache. He had been married twice, and both marriages were tainted by infidelity and emotional distance. His first wife, an actress, left him after years of strained intimacy. His second wife, a much younger woman, left him too, after a failed attempt at a second chance. Michael had one daughter, but their relationship was distant, and she rarely visited him in his final years. Despite his success on screen, Michael's career began to dwindle in the 1960s, and he found it increasingly difficult to secure roles. The loneliness of aging and the realization that his glory days were behind him weighed heavily on him. His final years were marked by an ongoing battle with depression and poor health. Michael died on June 10, 1971, at the age of 61, from a heart attack. Leonard Stone, born on November 3, 1923, played Farnham in Lost in Space at the age of 44. Farnham was a shrewd and cunning character, often scheming to get ahead, much like Stone's own career. While he found steady work in film and television, including memorable roles in shows like The Twilight Zone, his fame was fleeting, and he often played secondary parts. Stone's personal life was also marked by hardship. He was married twice, but both relationships ended in divorce. His first marriage, to actress Sarah, lasted over a decade before falling apart, while his second marriage was similarly troubled. Though he had a daughter, their relationship was distant, and his personal struggles were often hidden behind his professional persona. Stone faced financial difficulties in his later years, and the loneliness of his aging years weighed heavily on him. In his final years, cancer took its toll. Leonard Stone passed away on November 2, 2011, one day before his 8th birthday. Robert Folk, born May 5, 1908, played Cragmire in Lost in Space at the age of 59. His character, gruff and intimidating, was a memorable antagonist, often adding tension to the scenes he appeared in. While Folk found a niche in such roles, his career never soared beyond the realm of character actors, and he spent much of his life in the shadows of Hollywood. Off-screen, his personal life was fraught with struggles. Folk was married twice, but both marriages were rocky. His first wife, whom he married in 1933, divorced him after a decade, a blow that affected him deeply. His second marriage, to actress Mary Lee, ended similarly, leaving him emotionally strained. Despite the facade of strength he portrayed on screen, Folk lived with personal loneliness and disappointment. In his later years, he withdrew from public life. On February 25, 1989, Folk passed away at 80 from natural causes. His death marked the quiet end of a man who had spent his life playing intimidating figures, yet faced his own private battles with resilience. Marcel Hair, born on April 23, 1908, portrayed Junkman in Lost in Space at age 59. His character was a crafty and resourceful figure, adding a unique flair to the series. Off-screen, Hilaire's career was a mix of steady work but never reaching the fame he desired. Though he appeared in many films and shows, he often played supporting roles and struggled for recognition. His personal life mirrored his professional struggles. Hilaire married twice, but both relationships were troubled. His first marriage to actress Jacqueline Dilo ended in divorce, and his second marriage to Marie faced similar difficulties. Addiction and infidelity clouded his personal life, leaving him increasingly isolated in his later years. In 1988, Hilaire underwent surgery, but tragically passed away from complications on January 1 at the age of 79. His death went largely unnoticed, a quiet end for a man who had spent much of his life in the shadows, much like the character he portrayed. Don Matheson, born on August 5, 1929, brought power and loyalty to the android IDAK Alpha 12 in Lost in Space in 1965, at the age of 36. Despite his portrayal of an indomitable character, Don's life was riddled with heartbreak and despair. An aspiring actor with a brief stint as a Marine, Don's career flickered rather than flourished, leaving him typecast and frustrated. He married twice. His first wife, Nancy, left him after years of his obsessive dedication to a failing career. Together they had one daughter, Jennifer, whose battle with substance abuse strained their already tenuous bond. Don's second marriage to fellow actress Deanna Lund, his Lost in Space co-star, ended in bitterness and scandal. The betrayal of a close friend during their divorce shattered Don's trust in those around him. In 1983, a car accident left him with chronic pain, further isolating him from the industry and his family. Don died on June 29, 2014, aged 84, after a long battle with Parkinson's disease, a quiet fade from a life filled with dashed hopes. Tiger Joe Marsh, born on August 26, 1911, played the stoic and dependable elevator operator in Lost in Space, 1965. At 54, Marsh had already carved out a career in Hollywood, but it was this role that would define him for audiences. Despite his on-screen presence, Marsh's life was one of deep struggle and isolation. Behind the facade of the reliable elevator operator was a man battling with personal demons. He had been married to actress Judy Nugent, but their relationship quickly crumbled under the weight of their respective insecurities. The dissolution of their marriage was a painful chapter in his life, especially as he was left to raise their only son, Mark, alone. Financial instability, coupled with his worsening asthma, sent Marsh into a downward spiral. The tragic loss of his wife, followed by the burden of raising a child in difficult circumstances, took a toll on him. In the years that followed, his health continued to deteriorate, and his career faded into obscurity. On May 9, 1989, at the age of 77, Marsh passed away from an asthma attack. Keith Taylor, born on February 5, 1950, was 15 when he portrayed Edgar, the mischievous and lively character in Lost in Space, 1965. While the role brought him momentary fame, his acting career faltered after the show ended in 1968, leaving him typecast and unable to secure significant roles. By his early 20s, Keith had drifted out of Hollywood, working odd jobs to survive. In 1972, he married Linda, his childhood sweetheart, and they had 2 children, Sarah and Michael. However, his frustrations with his stalled career and a growing dependency on alcohol led to the collapse of their marriage in 1985. Estranged from his family, Keith lived a quiet, solitary life. 2 major tragedies defined his later years: his father's sudden death in 1990, which left him deeply shaken, and his son Michael's severe car accident in 1998, an event Keith blamed himself for. Despite his attempts, he never fully mended ties with his children. On August 31, 2019, Keith passed away at the age of 69. Alan Melvin, born on February 18, 1923, was cast as Enforcer Claudio in Lost in Space, 1965. Enforcer Claudio was a rigid, authoritative figure, whose steadfast nature contrasted sharply with the chaos of space exploration. Melvin, at 42 years old, brought a stern yet endearing quality to the role, but his own life was far from the stability he portrayed on screen. A career marked by highs and lows, Melvin faced persistent struggles with typecasting, often relegated to minor roles in television. His personal life wasn't much easier. His marriage to actress Judith Robinson ended in a bitter divorce, and their one child, a daughter, lived a life in the shadow of his work. Though he adored her, their bond became strained as Melvin's obsession with his career took precedence. Later years were filled with regrets, as he lamented the lost opportunities for closeness. Melvin's final years were clouded by a quiet battle with cancer, a disease that slowly ravaged his body. At 84, after years of painful treatment and a fading career, he succumbed to the illness on January 17, 2008. Howell, born on August 27, 1929, portrayed the security guard in Lost in Space, a character known for his vigilance and unyielding dedication. Howell, 36 years old at the time of the series, brought a stern, grounded demeanor to the role. However, his life was filled with discontent. Though he had a career in television, it was a succession of fleeting roles that never allowed him to fully shine. His love life was no better. Married twice, both unions ended in heartache, and he was estranged from his children, who felt neglected due to his devotion to his work. The years of disappointment took a toll on his health, and by his late 60s, Howell was increasingly isolated. The biographical narrative of his life took a dark turn as he faced heart failure in his final days. Surrounded by few loved ones and with no family to care for him, Howell passed away quietly on May 9, 1997, at the age of 67, his life a testament to the unfulfilled dreams of a man whose dedication never quite bore fruit. Warren Oates, born on July 5, 1928, played the rugged and independent Jimmy Hapgood in Lost in Space at the age of 37. His portrayal of the self-reliant pilot left an indelible mark, but Warren's real life mirrored a darker, more tumultuous path. A passionate and driven actor, Warren's career fluctuated wildly. He spent years working on obscure films and bit parts in television, only to achieve fame later in life. His marriage to his first wife, Judy, lasted only 3 years before they parted ways. They had 2 children, Sarah and David, both of whom struggled with their own demons. The turning point in Warren's life came in 1972, when David, a promising young actor, tragically died in a car accident. Warren, devastated by the loss, withdrew from the world and sank into a deep depression. His marriage to his second wife, Ruth, followed soon after, but it too ended in a bitter divorce. In the end, Warren's career flourished only slightly, and the demons he battled with alcohol and addiction haunted him until his final years. He passed away on April 3, 1982, at the age of 53, from a heart attack. Reda Shaw, born on September 13, 1912, brought warmth and nurturing to her role as Aunt Clara Sims in Lost in Space at the age of 53. Known for her motherly presence, Reda's real life was far from the comforting image she portrayed. Her early career saw her as a stage actress, but the transition to television proved difficult. Her career was dotted with fleeting roles, and she struggled to find consistent work. Her marriage to actor and writer Henry Shaw was her first, but it was short-lived, ending in a heartbreaking divorce after just 6 years. They had no children, which added to her sense of isolation. In 1965, just after Lost in Space wrapped, Reda's life took another devastating turn when Henry died unexpectedly of a sudden stroke. Grief-stricken, Reda found solace only in her work, but the acting roles never came in the abundance she hoped for. Her health began to deteriorate in the 1970s, and in 1982, she suffered a debilitating stroke that left her unable to speak. She passed away quietly on January 8, 1982, aged 69, from complications of a second stroke. Royal Dano, born on November 16, 1922, appeared as Major Domo in Lost in Space at the age of 44. Major Domo was a loyal, dutiful, and somewhat comical character, serving the alien leader with an unwavering sense of duty. Royal Dano's career, however, was a series of overlooked roles in Hollywood's vast machine. Despite his distinctive deep voice and ability to play both the villain and the sympathetic character, Dano's career never reached the stardom it perhaps deserved. He struggled to secure lead roles, often relegated to supporting parts in westerns and horror films. His personal life mirrored his professional disappointments. He was married twice, first to Dorothy, divorced in 1967, and then to Jean, with whom he had 2 sons, but neither marriage could withstand the pressures of his fading career. Dano's life was marred by battles with alcoholism, leading to estrangement from his loved ones. In his final years, he withdrew from the public eye, battling loneliness and financial struggles. He passed away on May 15, 1994, from a heart attack at the age of 71. Michael J. Pollard, born on May 30, 1939, portrayed the boy in Lost in Space at the age of 27. The boy was an inquisitive, adventurous character, but Pollard's real life was a stark contrast, full of quiet despair and untapped potential. Though he started his career with promise, winning acclaim for his role in Bonnie and Clyde, 1967, Pollard's fame quickly faded. He struggled with typecasting, often cast as the quirky, oddball character, which limited his opportunities in leading roles. His personal life was equally tumultuous. Pollard had several relationships but never married, and his attempts at finding true happiness were thwarted by his own sense of dissatisfaction. The loneliness that came with not finding lasting love shadowed him throughout his life. He also wrestled with addiction, leading to a string of failed projects and professional heartaches. On November 20, 2019, after a long battle with health issues, Michael J. Pollard passed away from heart failure at the age of 80, alone in a world that had long since moved on from his once promising career. Michael Ansara, born on April 15, 1922, played the ruler in Lost in Space at the age of 44. The ruler was a commanding, authoritative figure, but Ansara's personal life was anything but regal. Despite early success in Hollywood, including a notable role in Broken Arrow, 1950, Ansara's career would soon flounder. His marriage to actress Barbara Eden in 1958, which produced a son, Matthew, seemed like a dream come true. However, the marriage ended in divorce in 1974 after years of separation and mounting tension. The breakdown of his marriage sent Ansara into a deep depression, which further spiraled as his career choices became increasingly limited. He was often cast in villainous roles, yet he could never shake the feeling that he was still struggling to find his true place in the world. Later in life, Ansara suffered from a string of health problems, and despite several attempts at making a comeback, he never regained his former prominence. Michael Ansara passed away on July 31, 2013, at the age of 91 from complications of Alzheimer's disease. Werner Klemmer, born on March 22, 1920, at the age of 46, took on the role of Bolix in Lost in Space. Bolix was a clever, shrewd character whose cunning nature made him a memorable part of the series. Klemperer, a German-American actor, had already established himself in Hollywood, but his life was not free from hardship. Despite his acclaim in Lost in Space and his previous success in Hogan's Heroes, where he played Colonel Klink, Klemperer's personal life was filled with turbulence. He was married twice. His first marriage to actress Vivienne Kimmel ended in divorce. His second marriage, to actress Barbara K. Lutz, also dissolved after years of struggles, including the burden of his career overshadowing his personal life. Klemperer faced constant battles with depression, which took a toll on his health and relationships. Though he had one daughter from his first marriage, his emotional distance led to a strained relationship with her. The final blow came when he was diagnosed with cancer, which took his life on December 6, 2000, at the age of 80. Gerald Moore, born on June 11, 1914, was 52 when he portrayed Morbus in Lost in Space. Morbus, with his enigmatic and mysterious persona, mirrored much of the complexity in Moore's own life. Known for his roles in radio and film, Moore's career was a string of missed opportunities and fleeting successes. His marriage to actress Patricia Dane in 1943 ended in divorce after only a few years, leaving Moore to cope with his personal demons. He remarried twice, but both unions were marred by infidelity and mutual resentment. His struggles with alcoholism and a strained relationship with his children further complicated his existence. As his career declined, Moore was often relegated to bit parts and fading roles, unable to reclaim the spotlight he once had. He suffered from a long battle with health issues, which only deepened his sense of isolation. Moore died of a heart attack on May 9, 1968, at the age of 53, just a few months after his appearance in Lost in Space. His death was sudden, and it seemed like the final chapter in a life marked by unrealized potential and deep personal sorrow. Struther Martin, born on March 26, 1919, played the quirky and eccentric Narim in Lost in Space at the age of 47. Martin's career was full of ups and downs, with moments of recognition balanced by years of struggle. He had a distinctive voice and presence that made him a memorable character actor, but his personal life was less stable. Martin married 3 times, but his first 2 marriages ended in divorce, and his third, to actress and singer Frida, faced its own set of difficulties. He never had children of his own, and his relationships were often filled with tension and disappointment. As a character actor, Martin was often typecast in roles that showcased his eccentricities, but the strain of never reaching leading man status left him feeling unfulfilled. His battle with alcoholism and mental health issues, paired with a series of failed projects, overshadowed the later years of his career. Martin's life was cut short on August 1, 1980, when he died of a heart attack at the age of 61. Mercedes McCambridge, born on March 16, 1916, portrayed the mysterious and powerful Sibylla in Lost in Space at the age of 50. McCambridge had a stellar career in Hollywood, but her personal life was fraught with difficulties. She was married 3 times, each relationship ending in bitter divorce. Her first marriage to actor Robert Ryan produced 2 sons, James and Jonathan, but her struggles with alcoholism caused rifts in her family, leading to estrangement from her children. The death of her son James in a tragic car accident in 1970 devastated her, and she never fully recovered from this loss. Despite her early successes in film and voice acting, including her iconic role in The Exorcist, McCambridge's career began to falter due to her personal demons. By the time she appeared in Lost in Space, she was already battling a fading career and addiction. Her life was marked by a constant battle with inner turmoil, and she often sought solace in various forms, but peace eluded her. Mercedes McCambridge passed away on March 2, 2004, at the age of 87, due to natural causes, leaving behind a complex legacy of both triumph and tragedy. Malachi Throne, born on December 1, 1928, played the thief in Lost in Space at age 38. The thief, cunning and resourceful, mirrored Throne's own ability to navigate Hollywood's shifting tides. Throne's early career showed great promise, but over the years, he found himself typecast in secondary roles. His personal life was equally tumultuous. He married twice, first to actress Sheila Throne, with whom he had a rocky relationship that ended in divorce. He later married Kate Millett, but tragedy struck when she passed away unexpectedly. Throne's career hit a low point as the film industry changed, and his once promising path seemed to slip away. He struggled with the loss of his career's early momentum, feeling increasingly irrelevant in Hollywood's evolving landscape. In his later years, Throne faced a diagnosis of lung cancer, a cruel end to a life that had been filled with both promise and unfulfilled potential. Malachi Throne passed away on March 13, 2013, at the age of 84, from lung cancer, leaving behind a legacy of underappreciated talent and a life defined by resilience in the face of personal and professional hardships. Henry Jones, born on August 1, 1912, played the cunning and manipulative Jeremiah Smith in Lost in Space at the age of 55. His character was complex, often using charm to control those around him, yet in real life, Jones's career was a series of missed opportunities. Though he was a talented actor, his roles remained mostly in supporting parts, never achieving the fame he sought. His personal life was filled with heartbreak as well. After a painful divorce, Jones, who had 1 daughter, found himself distanced from her, leaving their relationship fractured. The tragic death of his brother in the 1950s left a lasting emotional scar, deepening his sense of isolation. In his later years, Jones withdrew from the public eye, struggling with his health after a fall that led to complications. He passed away on May 17, 1999, at the age of 86. His life, filled with both professional and personal battles, ended quietly, much like the roles he often played on screen. How do you feel about the passing of the actors from Lost in Space, and which one do you miss the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our latest videos.